This is Humble Hospitality with DJ DP, otherwise known as Doug Poole, and myself, Kyle Green. Welcome to episode 4.
Nice.
How's your week, Doug?
Excellent.
Yeah?
Yeah, I moved, and Tom Brady won another Super Bowl.
Yes, that's right. We did watch the Super Bowl yesterday.
Do you remember Tom Brady? We talked about him last week.
We talked about him, yep. And you know what? I was watching him, and I was observing his leadership skill set, and that would explain why he won last night.
Yeah.
Kansas City was talking a lot of shit from the beginning. I saw that, right?
Yeah.
Crying, penalties. It was great.
Dirty team.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Shout out to my people in KC, though.
Yeah, what's up, KC? Maybe next year. You know, the thing that I thought about, and not even getting into our content, but the thing I thought about was Tom Brady, cool, calm, collected. He was handling it. His team did exactly what they needed to do. They were blocking him when they were coming in. I don't know shit about football, and I could tell this, right? So, like, they were blocking. He had all the time in the world to make his throws, make his passes, right?
Yeah.
And on KC, dude, Tampa was just eating through their defense, and they had him scrambling the whole time, running around. And I was like, this pertains to leadership so well. And I know the quarterback on KC is a little bit younger, right?
Patrick Mahomes, yeah.
Yeah, like 15, 20 years younger than Tom Brady.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, he's
so.
20, yeah.
But you know what? When even though he was scrambling and running, I gotta give him props. He made some amazing throws that sometimes were caught. But either way, he didn't stop. So
if you ever get into fantasy football, he should be your number one pick.
I try to stay out of fantasy anything.
Excellent.
So getting to our content today, right? Wanted to talk about a little recap of last episode, because originally my plan was to take the 21 Laws of Leadership, go 7 chapters episode, and have 3 episodes. However, we got through, I think, 3 or 4 chapters last week in 2 hours. So I don't really have a set amount of episodes it's going to take to get through this book, because there's so much good content in here that this is just in episode 2 of an indefinite series until we can solve that. So I'm looking forward to it, because there's, again, to recap, we're going through the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And there's so much great information in each one of these laws. Specifically, what I like about it is, you know, when you think about this, I kind of teach my team, my leadership team, I teach my leadership team, you know, you got to be able to identify the tools in your toolbox, right, as a leader. So if, again, I'm going to go back to auto mechanic. If you open up your toolbox to go fix a car and you don't know what those tools are, what they do, you're not going to be very successful at fixing that car, right? So, or any craft, right? You think about the kitchen. Hey, I can show you guys all the hand tools in the world: knives, scoops, shapers, microplanes, spatulas, different type offset spatulas. But if you don't know how to use them, they're meaningless. Does that make sense? And leadership is exactly the same way. So, and that's why we're taking our podcast. That's why we did an overview on episode 1. That's why we did managing oneself on episode 2. Because I want to kind of go in sequential order here of taking from an entry level or person, someone new to leadership, so you can really get a good foundation as we get into some of these other more advanced concepts, theories, books, etc., etc. And what's really great about 21 Laws of Leadership is, in my opinion, is it really gives you a very clear understanding and definition of the laws of leadership, and gives you 21 tools for you to self-reflect on, but also learn how to deploy so that you can up your leadership capability and skill sets. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So if you haven't listened to episode 2 or 3, I would suggest you go back and do that. If you have listened to episode 2 and 3, excellent, good job. Glad you did your homework. And we're gonna get into our next chapter here, titled "The Law of Navigation."
Okay.
What do you think? What do you think that might mean?
Navigating your course through leadership.
Ooh. Excellent.
Look at that.
Excellent. You've been doing your homework.
Absolutely.
So you do pay attention.
I do.
I'm just kidding, Doug. I'm just kidding. I had no doubts.
Yes.
So law of navigation, he says, anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. Right?
Right.
Makes sense with that. In 1911, this is what, hold on, before we go back. Time out. the reason why I really enjoy this book, and I said it last podcast, for those of you that don't remember why I enjoy this book, each one of these laws, John Maxwell does a really good job tying 1 to 2 stories to each law that really have great examples throughout history of how these laws pertain to real life historical facts and scenarios. And with that being said, they're from all different aspects of life, history, people. So it really ties together the concept of the law and the rule so that you can apply it to whatever it is you're doing. For us, it's going to be through the lens of hospitality. How can we be excellent quality leaders in our restaurant, whether we're a GM, a line cook, a server, a chef, whatever the case may be, an F&B director, whether you're in a hotel, country club. Like, it's very universal, but we try to always relate it back through hospitality, hostess, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got to make sure that we're all functioning as leaders. So if you want to improve your leadership skill set, continue to listen, right? But let me ask you this. This doesn't have to just be about restaurants. Could it help you at home? Could it help you in your family life? Could it help you at church? Could it help you with whatever, I don't know, maybe you've got a crazy family, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, and you apply some of these laws of leadership to that, and it might just help. Even if it only helps 10%, it helps, right?
Yeah.
So in 1911, 2 groups of explorers set off on an incredible mission. Doug, how many years ago was that?
110.
110, long time ago.
Yeah.
Think about, any idea where we might be going on this mission that we're about to journey through?
No. I'm gonna say no. I already said one intelligent thing today. That's it. I'm not saying anymore. I'm not gonna shock value.
Doug said. I'm just kidding. All right, so this is really cool. It's one of my favorite ones. I'm very excited to share it, not only with you but with our listeners. We'll get into it. Set off on an incredible mission. Though they used different strategies and routes, the leaders of the teams had the same goal: to be the first in history to reach the South Pole. Their stories are life and death illustrations of the law of navigation. Imagine if I was like, hey, Doug.
I can imagine every bit of this.
Sorry, we just had a breach.
That's awesome. So we're on a boat.
So imagine if I said, hey, Doug, chart a course to the South Pole. We're gonna go pick up some shirts there.
Yeah. I wouldn't even be amazed.
Even 110 years later, with technology and everything we have, I'd venture it would still be quite a challenge, right? Precarious of a mission.
Yeah.
All right. One of the groups was led by Norwegian explorer Ronald Amundsen. Ironically, Amundsen had not originally intended to go to Antarctica. His desire was to be the first man to reach the North Pole. But when he discovered that Robert Peary had beat him there, Amundsen changed his goal and headed toward the other end of the Earth. North or south, he knew his planning would pay off. Amundsen carefully charted his course. Before his team ever set off, Amundsen had painstakingly planned his trip. He studied the methods of the Eskimos and other experienced Arctic travelers and determined that their best course of action would be to transport all their equipment and supplies by dog sled. When he assembled his team, he chose expert skiers and dog handlers. His strategy was simple. The dogs would not do most of the work, as the group traveled 15 to 20 miles in a 6-hour period each day. That would allow both the dogs and the men plenty of time to rest each day for the following day's travel. Amundsen's forethought and attention to detail were incredible. He located and stocked supply depots all along the route. That way they would not have to carry every bit of their supplies with them the whole trip. He also equipped his people with the best gear possible. Amundsen had carefully considered every possible aspect of the journey, thought it through, and planned accordingly, and it paid off. The worst problem they experienced on the trip was an infected tooth that one man had to have extracted. Right? So a couple key points there, just in those 2 paragraphs of a leader, right? He studied people that had gone before him, that survive and live and thrive actually in Arctic climates and temperatures. Check, right? Makes sense.
Yeah.
Then he's like, well, let me get an expert team together. I don't need to be the best skier. I don't need to be the best dog sled driver. Let me find those people. Let me build my team of excellence. And then, hey, strategically, maybe if we have some supply depots on the way and we don't have to carry all our stuff and we can make sure we get enough rest and we have enough food and supplies, that's going to increase our chances of survival. It's pretty
legit.
Pretty legit, right?
Yeah.
But he thought about it. He put a little time and energy into the thought process of it and looked at his goal and worked it backwards and said, what's the most efficient way to accomplish goal X, right? Simple. It's leadership, great leadership, right? Because leadership, you got to have a little strategy. You got to have a little procedure. You got to have a little bit of direction. The other team of men was led by Robert Falcon Scott, a British naval officer who had previously done some exploring in the Antarctic area. Scott's expedition was the antithesis, sorry, it's a little early still, of Amundson's. Instead of using dog sleds, Scott decided to use motorized sledges and ponies. Their problems began when the motors on the sledges stopped working only 5 days into their trip. And I think it's important to note, in 1911, I'd argue the fact that they had perfected the motor at this point.
Yeah, I'd argue the fact that they perfected a snowmobile either.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get it. It's new. It's cool.
Yeah.
But it's not exactly like Henry Ford was down in Antarctica and be like, hey, let's try some cool stuff out here.
Yeah.
The ponies didn't fare well either in those frigid temperatures. When they reached the foot of the Trans-Antarctic Mountains, all of the poor animals had to be killed. As a result, the team members themselves ended up hauling the 200-pound sledges. It was arduous work. Scott hadn't given enough attention to the team's other equipment. Their clothes were so poorly designed that all men developed frostbite. One team member required an hour every morning just to get his boots into his swollen, gangrenous feet, and everyone became snowblind because of the inadequate goggles Scott had supplied. On top of everything else, the team was always low on food. That was also due to Scott's poor planning. The depots of supplies Scott had established were inadequately stocked, too far apart, and often poorly marked, which made them very difficult to find. Because they were continually low on fuel to melt snow, everyone became dehydrated. Making things even worse was Scott's last-minute decision to tail along a fifth man, even though they had prepared enough supplies for only 4. After covering a grueling 800 miles in 10 weeks, Scott's exhausted group finally arrived at the South Pole January 17, 1912. There they found the Norwegian flag flapping in the wind and a letter from Amundsen. The other well-led team had beaten them to their goal by more than a month.
Ouch.
Ouch is right. So you kill all your animals. You carried hundreds of pounds of shit.
Yeah.
For 8 weeks in the snow, and someone got there a month before you.
Because you're a horribly ineffective leader.
Yep. Talk about your team's morale at that point, right?
I saw a shirt the other day. It's not new, but I wanted to bring it up on this, and it said, "The beatings will continue until the morale gets better." And I was like, man, like that's funny, but people actually live by that. It's
they
like,
do.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna.
They do. My mom would say. I'm just kidding. Hi, Mom.
Oh, Ellen, that's true. She does smack me around quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, hey, it works.
It does.
But think about that. Like, here's a guy who said, hey, he had some form of leadership. He got these people to follow him into potential death, right? But he didn't do his responsibility as a leader to make sure that he planned the trip properly. Right. He didn't make sure that he thought of contingencies. I would venture to say, because he had some experience in the Antarctic, and clearly I didn't meet this individual, but I would venture to say that his ego might have been like, I got this. I'm an Antarctic explorer. I'm in the British Navy, whatever. I got this. Boom. No factor. Yeah. And he got a huge frozen humble pie when he got there.
Yeah.
But wait, there's more. As bad as their trip to the pole was, that wasn't the worst part of their story. Their trek back was horrific. Scott and his men were starving and suffering from scurvy, but Scott, unable to navigate to the very end, was oblivious to their plight. With time running out and desperately low on food, Scott insisted that they collect 30 pounds of geological specimens to take back, more weight to be carried with the worn-out men. Their progress became slower and slower. One member of the party sank into a stupor and died. Another, Lawrence Oates, was in terrible shape. The former Army officer who had originally been brought along to take care of the ponies had frostbite so severe that he had trouble going on. Because he believed he was endangering the team's survival, it said that he purposely walked out into a blizzard to relieve the group of himself as a liability. Before he left the tent and headed out into the storm, he said, "I am just going outside. I may be some time." Scott and his final 2 team members made it only a little farther north before giving up. The return trip had already taken 2 more months, and they still were 150 miles from their base camp. There they died. We know their story only because they spent their last hours writing in their diaries. Some of Scott's last words were these: "We shall die like gentlemen. I think this will show the spirit of pluck and power to endure has not passed out of our race." Scott had courage, but not leadership. Because he was unable to live by the law of navigation, he and his companions died by it. Followers need leaders who are able to effectively navigate for them. When they're facing life and death situations, the necessity becomes painfully obvious. At other times, even though the consequences are not as serious, the need is just as great. The truth is that just about anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. That is the law of navigation. Right? So these guys trusted Scott to go, again, into the Arctic tundra, Antarctic tundra. They all perished. Right? How does that, here we go again.
Yeah, hey, you did it all.
How does that relate to the restaurant? All right, well, if you're just overconfident, and I'm going to look at it from a chef's point of view. If you're just overconfident, you're not taking the time to really coach and guide your team. If you're not doing a thorough line check, if you're not doing a thorough double check of, hey, do all my backups, is everything ready, is my product fresh? All of a sudden, 6:30, 7 o'clock rolls around, tickets start spitting out, oh, I'm out of soup, oh, I don't have enough grouper, oh, I need to go cut fillets, oh, nobody prepped more mashed potatoes, whatever it is, and you're scrambling, and now you go down. Granted, no one's freezing to death in the Antarctic blizzards,
No.
right?
But according to Yelp, you would think that the people are out here starving.
Oh yeah, it'd be like you served a plate of live grenades. They get pissed. I mean, but rightfully so,
yeah.
right? I'd be like, hey man, but at the same time, yeah, the restaurant industry is, the critiques of restaurants are so, what sort of hyper inflated as far as like, you would think like I don't want to say anything like overly mean, but you'd think like you just like,
You served them a hot, steamy pile of dog.
Yeah, and threw it in their face. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, and you know what? Sometimes,
Like TGI Fridays, happy birthday.
Yeah. And sometimes listen, mistakes happen, and that's where in the restaurant industry you've got to take your ownership and make it right for them, and
Right.
say, hey, listen, this is a human error. I did not intend to, serve you raw chicken on purpose or whatever the case may be, or like in some places do that. I don't know. I've heard weird things, just in general, nowhere specific. Watch the movie Waiting. I mean, which we all love, but it's pretty wild where and then people say, oh well, what happened? Why'd the kitchen crash? Well, you weren't ready. You weren't prepared. You didn't have your backups. You didn't train your team. You didn't follow in. And I'm not saying micromanage. I'm saying give them the direction and let them know what a successful execution of service looks like.
Yeah.
And make sure they have the tools to do that.
Due diligence.
And then as you're going through the shift, coach, guide, and follow up, and be like, hey man, listen, we're getting busy. You got to pick up the pace. You know what drives me nuts the most is in a restaurant like ours where we pace it out through Open Table. It's Saturday night. We're maxed out on reservations, and between 6 and 8, it's busy. And a chef looks at me and says, "It all came in at once." And you look at the ticket rail, and there's a ticket here. The first ticket is, let's just say it's 7 o'clock, and the last ticket's like 7:25, 7:30. They got a lot of tickets, but it's 30 minutes worth of tickets.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey man, our ticket time is 20 minutes for entrees, unless it's like a medium well or well done or whatever. Then 25, 28. I'm good with that for steaks and lobsters and stuff for our type restaurant. But I'm like, guys, from 7 o'clock to 7:10, those tickets shouldn't even be there. So where is it, the breakdown, right? Because those should already be sold. So where is it in the breakdown of the communication and execution that has happened to where you're egregiously behind? And don't tell me it all came in at once. Go faster. Batch prep. Hey, you got 17 orders of Brussels sprouts. Make 18, right? Just make them. You got pans, you got ovens. Figure it out, right? Figure it out. make it happen. Don't tell me it all came in at once. That's the idea. The idea of the restaurant is to be busy. That's how our paychecks cash. Therefore, don't want to hear it. You tell me that tells me that you have no control or ability to overcome that. Perhaps the conversation at 4:30, 5 o'clock with a pre-shift with your team should go, hey guys, listen, it's Saturday. It's busy. Lots of reservations tonight. We're probably going to get some walk-ins. This is our opportunity to show 350 people, 700 people, depending on which restaurant we're talking about, that we're professionals at what we do. So be ready, be prepared from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock to be very busy. And if you're unsure of how many items you have hanging, ask me. Don't say, hey chef, can I get an all day on this? Can I get an all day on that? Can I get some help? Or double count. If I tell you 12, fire 13 or 14. Because what if we're moving fast? What if you drop one? What if the server forgets that, hey, you know what? I forgot to bring an extra side of mac and cheese. All right, boom, I've got one ready. It'll take me an extra 2 minutes.
Anticipation.
Right, anticipate the needs, set yourself up for success, and then it's just boom, 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 move. It's no factor, right? But you've delivered that. But how can you expect your team to understand and know that if you as their leader is not giving that to them? And oh, hey, by the way, last Saturday we went through a ton of mac and cheese. Make sure you have an extra third pan of mac and cheese sauce in the back. If you need it, go get it, or I'll send someone to go get it, and we'll just keep going, right? Just reload. I mean, imagine someone, in I don't know, World War I in trench warfare, and they just roll on up with like 2 grenades and like 1 magazine, and they're like, okay, I'm ready, and then like the Axis powers just start rolling up on them, and they're like, anybody got more bullets? Like, it doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a recipe for disasters. So, that's how I look at navigation. Hey, here's where we're going. Here's the challenges we're going to face. Let's make sure we've got some plans ahead of time so that when they happen, we can default back to that plan. And then from there, we can improvise. But you don't want to be improvising making new soup at 7:30 in the evening because someone was too lazy to go look in the auto sham to make sure we've got hot soup or an extra backup of mash. Or, hey, I always have extra scallops prepped back there, but I'm not going to look today because I don't want to walk to the cooler at 4:30. Oh, that's a great example. Great. Yeah, fantastic. Let me know how that works for you when you're picking scallop mussels off to the side to do them to order.
Ketchup,
Meanwhile, the ticket printer's and it's down to the floor. Your rail's like this, and you're like, oh, I wonder why I'm busy. Please.
That's why you have nightmares of that sound.
I sleep great. I love hearing that sound. Gotta go.
That's the white noise you listen to before you fall asleep.
Yeah, I love it because you know what? It doesn't. I don't care how many tickets you give me. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna cook food and I'm just gonna go faster. Fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. Good. What's
good?
Good. The more tickets come in, the better it is for me to figure out how to cook faster, to figure out how to go faster, to figure out how to get in that rhythm. Ask any of my guys on the line. If I step back there, I'm selling food. I am selling food, and it's going out right because I don't allow the ticket to have control over me. I'm gonna be okay, boom. Because once I start getting busy, I'll go up an extra salmon. I'll go up an extra 6-ounce fillet. These things that we sell a lot of. Because what if I overcook one? Am I gonna wait another 15 minutes?
Right.
Because no, I'm gonna be like, here you go. I'm gonna wait 3 minutes while this extra one's getting ready. You just gotta. When you do volume like that, you really have to take the ownership on yourself of your station to do that. But even with times like when I'm in the expo window, and I know it's 6-ounce fillets, both Okanember and here are like our most popular dish. I'm like, hey guys, go up extra on a 6-ounce fillet. Just cook 2 to rare, and just hang out, because chances are we, as busy as we are, maybe one goes out overcooked. Maybe you forgot one. Maybe you missed one. Maybe we miscounted.
Yeah.
There's gonna be something, and I'd rather you have it. I'd rather throw 1 or 2 out at the end of the night than have to comp 2 or 3 out in the dining room and upset the guests.
Right.
You with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna lose it either way, but at least in that aspect.
But at least you're eating it and no one's getting affected by it.
And at least if I'm gonna lose it there, the guest doesn't know.
Right.
And we're able to accomplish our mission, which is serving our guests quality product in a timely manner and making sure that what they order is right.
Right.
Does that make sense? And however we get there, I want to get there as efficiently as possible. And if I've got to have a little insurance on a Saturday night, Now, am I going to let that steak hang out there for 7 hours? No. It's like at a 15-minute interval, right? I'm going to fire one off, let it rest. If I don't use it, I throw it out, or actually our dishwasher has a nice meal that night. Great, good.
Yeah.
They're happy.
Yeah, when I said eat it, I meant like eat the cost, not like actually
No,
eat
I
it.
know. No, I know. But you know what? I'll give it to my dish team. Hey guys, you're working hard. Here's give them a little butter or cheese or something on there. They're thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that helps me build my relational connection.
Yeah.
So there's always a win-win factor in a scenario like that versus that. And you know, I'm sure there's going to be people that disagree with me, and that's okay. It's fine. Everyone's got their own way. I would prefer that in our buildings. Take care of our guests, and if there's any extra left over, take care of your team. Boom, problem solved, right? Yep. Back to the returning to the book. Navigators see the trip ahead. And General Electric Chairman Jack Welch asserts that a good leader remains focused. Controlling your direction is better than being controlled by it.
Again,
what did I just say?
Don't let the tickets control you.
Don't let the ticket. Same thing on service bar. Same thing as a server. You know what? You've got 3-4 table station. Oh, I just got triple staff. Woohoo! Good. Figure it out. Go faster.
Yeah.
Stage your shit. Get ready. Get organized. You can still do that. Are you going to have to work a little harder than you did yesterday? Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Would you prefer a one table station? I'll make sure no one ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's going to happen. The restaurant industry by no means is ever perfect. It's never perfectly laid out or designed, but it also that little moment of chaos provides opportunity.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it provides opportunity to showcase your skill set, to try yourself. It shows financial opportunity for you and the restaurant to capitalize on just a freak event where the restaurant just got hit all at once.
Yeah.
You know,
you said that. I mean, you nailed it. You said you'll never be able to set up a restaurant perfectly. You can set up a restaurant as efficiently as you think you can, planning for X, Y, and Z. And so you say, I have a 250-person restaurant. Oh, we have a table of 48 that wants to come in tonight. Okay, well, the restaurant wasn't set up for that. You have to adapt and overcome.
All day long.
And just like, okay, boom, I know I have 40. Okay, perfect. We're in a private dining room right now. Throw 48 seats on the table in here. Chef, hey, 7 o'clock. We got a 48 top coming in PDR. Bang.
Yep.
Prep for that.
Funny story, actually, to that point exactly. It happened this weekend. So Saturday, I was very fortunate. The restaurants were staffed with leadership team. Matt, our managing partner for here in Okanumber, obviously you know Matt. I said, hey man, I'm gonna spend some time with my girlfriend and her daughter today. I haven't had a lot of family time with them, so we're gonna spend some time. I'll be in a little later. He's like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Everyone's staffed. Take the day off, boss. And I was like, cool. I'm gonna take you up on that.
Excellent.
So thank you, Matt. But with that being said,
I came and helped you moved.
Well, I was playing Monopoly.
Oh, heard. Yeah.
So I was playing Monopoly with my girlfriend's daughter, and we're having a blast, and I get a phone call, right? And it's my friend Dominic. He owns Revive Gyms and Raw Supplements, and I saw him at the gym that morning. I was coming out, he was going in, and he's killing in his business. It was awesome, great gym, by the way. And so he called me, and he's like, "Hey man, I need a table for 20 at Okanumber at 8:30." Now keep in mind, Okanumber's obviously not as big as Kyle G's. Saturday is our busiest night. And I was like, no problem, got it. I'll figure it out. I'll see you at 8:30. He was like, oh great, yeah, we got some people in town I want to impress. I was like, done. And so I called Bo, our service manager, because I knew he'd get it done. And Dave Lovitz, our director of beverage cocktail, he was working over there that night too. But I know he's been working a lot on Ocean. He was handling Okanumber that night with Bo. So I was like, I'm gonna leave him be. He goes to the gym too, but I'm like, I'm gonna leave him be. He's busy. He's building people. He's training people. I was like, Bo, he said, I got a VIP 20 top at 8:30. I was like, got it? He's like, yep, don't worry. He's like, I'll make it happen. And I was like, cool. Hung up the phone, went back to playing Monopoly. And then of course, after that, I had dinner. I got my uncle in town from New Jersey. He's retired from the National Guard, New Jersey. Made it pretty high up the ranks.
Nice.
I forgot exactly how far. I might try to get him on next week.
Excellent.
And we got to set up a day to take him to the range.
Excellent. Even better.
There's some competition pistol shooting stuff up there, so
great.
He's pretty cool. But anyway, so I had dinner with them at Hutch's Kitchen, and then I went over to Okanumber that night just to say hi and make sure everything was cool, and they had a great time. But again, they made it happen, and the team didn't get controlled by, oh, we have too many reservations, or oh, this or that. They came up with a solution. They figured it out. They plotted their tables so that we could have 20 free seats at 8:30. I walked in, restaurant's busy, tables sat on time, food came out. It was great. It was perfect. It was exactly how it should be. Decentralized command, execution. It was awesome. And at the end of the day, it's about the execution of your objectives, right? And our objectives are to seat guests. Right. Our objectives are to serve them great quality food. Our objectives are to give them excellent service, make them raving fans, and so with that being said, kudos to the team here at Kyler Cheese Prime Seafood Steaks. We had a huge weekend. They rocked it out. I was looking at the notes on Saturday night. They had like 16-minute ticket times all night. Phenomenal. I mean, absolutely amazing execution. And the best part is, I don't need to be there micromanaging them because the team understands what their objectives are, what they need to do, how to do it, the parameters they have to work in, and we've developed that leadership on leadership so that they can execute at a high level. And people are always like, oh, how do you do it? I'm like, I have a great team, but I make sure I take care of them too.
Right.
So,
still my favorite question. How do you find so many great people?
Build them.
Exactly. You teach them.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's true for any industry. From a lot of what I've seen, I work with talk to a lot of business owners, and in the groups that I'm in, on the boards I'm on, and whether they're hospitality or not, and even in the reports I read throughout the nation, staffing your companies at all levels is the hardest thing. And guess what? That's not a new problem. That's been a problem since the industrial age began.
Yeah.
It's nothing new. There's no tree of you don't just go and start picking the good employee tree and here I go, I have them. No, you've got to look for and filter out in your interview process. It's a whole nother podcast episode, but you've got to look for people with great character and then build the skill sets that you want them. And I think we've covered this previously. Once you get past the age of 5, if you aren't a person of good character by 5, there's really not a lot I'm going to be able to teach you in the restaurant industry that's going to help you innately be a better person. Right? Or want to strive to be a person who's going to, take care of someone. What's the quote? When you can do something for someone who cannot pay you back, that's when you've really done something well, and you don't expect to be paid back, right? Most people are like, well, if I go water that table, they better do something for me. It's like, so what does that cost you? What does it cost you to walk 10 steps with a pitcher of water and take care of your guests? Because guess what? If those guests aren't your guests right now, they could be tomorrow.
Right.
But if you shun them because they're not in your section, they sure as shit won't be your guest tomorrow because they're going to go to someone else's restaurant, and that's definitely not your section. So which would you prefer? You with me?
Yeah, very true.
And that's what sometimes people miss that mark on that in our business, and it's strange to see that happen, but it's great to see that not happen. When someone's like, oh yeah, you need water? All right, boom, got it, done. Awesome, thank you. That was, it wasn't hard, Oh, you need some food run? Yeah, boom. Oh, you need me to put some glasses away? Yeah. Oh, that helps the team? Great.
We're not exploding hydrogen and oxygen here. We're just pouring water into a glass.
That's it. It's as simple. Sometimes people overcomplicate it to the point and over dramatize it that I'm just So again, once you're past 5, I can't help you. If you're a person of great character, I can teach you about our food. I can teach you about our style of service and any of our concepts. I can teach you how to make the food. I can't teach you, but our team can teach you how to make the drinks, right? Those are all skills. Those are all. It's like your times tables when you're 9 or whatever. 2 times 3 is 6. 10 times 10 is 100. That's easy. Those are procedural. You know what I mean? But I can't teach you how to, say, please, thank you, you're welcome, may I, right this way, the guests right away, all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
So character first, and I've said it from day one when we opened this restaurant. Character first, skill set second. Yep. Right? You could be the best whatever, cook, bartender, server, host. You could be the baddest person there, have the best sales this, that, the other. If your attitude sucks, if your character sucks, because you can't lead yourself,
gotta go.
You go work for my competition. Go piss their customers off, so they send them here.
Yeah.
Go piss that team off.
Yep.
Don't want it. And I've had to part ways with a lot of phenomenal, talented individuals from management all the way through all the different ranks And it's a shame. It's like, man, you have so much potential. But because you can't manage oneself and you can't navigate your day-to-day time in this building, you've now become anti-leadership, because there is still leadership there, right? Like there's still leadership there, but it's infectious in the wrong way.
Right. Bad leaders.
There's absolutely. There's lots of bad leaders. There's good and bad. There's the dark side of the force and the light side of the force. You know what I mean? And so which do you want in your organization? And so again, looking through the lines of hospitality, but this, I mean, think about another organization. Maybe they've got a sales team of 20 people, right? And they've got this one individual who just outsells everyone month after month over month, but they're such a pain in the ass to work with that you can't put them on a team together, can't do anything. They like to just run their mouths. How good is that for the other 19 people, right? Would it be possible that if their morale was better and they could function as a team together, would it be possible that if you got rid of that one pain in the ass, that those 19 people collectively could probably outsell more than the other one because their morale's better because they're not getting shit on all the time?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would challenge someone to try that, because I guarantee you, all of a sudden your sales go up, I don't know, 10, 20% the very next month.
Yep.
Because they're collectively working together as a team. That's more powerful than, I got this one superstar. You know what I mean?
Very true.
Super Bowl last night.
Yeah, look at that.
Tom Brady's a superstar, but you could see on the field he treated his team with respect. He treated the other team with respect. And his team did exactly what he needed them to do. They blocked when he needed blocking. They caught when they needed catching. They ran when they needed to run. And every time it's like, they pass it up, 8 yards, 6 yards, first down, boom, boom, boom. And I was like, hey, wow, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. The other guy was the guy that got, I don't know what it's called, timeout or whatever. He had the yellow gloves, Matthew guy.
Matthew,
yeah. Oh, he was talking shit. Every time he got on the field, he's talking shit, and then it's like, touchdown. I'm like, because his ego, he was so mad, I couldn't hear him, but obviously, because they're the commentators just talking their nonsense, but he's like talking shit to the refs, talking shit to his coach, he's pissed, and he couldn't get past his ego.
Yep.
He couldn't understand why and no one can tell him shit. They were trying to tell him, and he's like, no, F that, da, da, da.
Yep.
And I was like, bro, you need to check your ego. Someone needs to give him some humble pie, because guess what? I don't know. I would imagine as an NFL player, my goal is to not just play in the Super Bowl, but win it, right? This guy got put in timeout in the Super Bowl. You don't even get to play in the game you've waited your whole life to get into, and you get to, hey, go over there because whatever, penalties and trash talking.
To break that down into leadership, it's because he was, theoretically we'll say he was trying to cut corners. Okay, you can't do that because just like you can't send out a steak rare that's supposed to be medium well. Yeah. Like, screw it, I just need to get the steak out. Well, and then you can't just hold somebody who's trying to catch a pass.
And then you want to argue with the manager or the guest as to why that rare steak is medium well. It's like, it's red.
Yep.
And then whatever your excuse is from that point on is irrelevant.
Yep.
It's absolutely irrelevant. 100% right. So yeah, same thing. He wants to, this person did this. So no, dude, just play the game right. Stop crying.
If my brother ever watches this, he's gonna be like, why the hell is Doug talking about sports? my brother's a huge sports nut, so I think he might actually be proud of my references here.
Good job.
Maybe.
Well, you know a lot more than I do about it with football. But that's my point. Even someone who doesn't know the sport inside and out, and I'm sure there's gonna be people that'll be like, oh, Kyle, you're wrong. All right, cool, fine, I'm wrong. I'm good with that. But from a leadership perspective, that's what I saw, and I was just like, man, this guy's acting a fool.
Yep.
It was only a handful of times, but sometimes that's enough. Because what example did that show to his team? And I don't know, maybe this guy's good or not. I have no idea, but the cameras seem to like him. So I'm assuming he's one of their better players. Yeah, right? So what is that showing to his team? How did that morale affect his team? It wasn't good.
Yeah.
They're probably like, oh, well, that's what someone who's good on our team does, so we're going to act that way. Right? And then so now you got every time Tampa Bay did something cool, KC's all up in their face talking shit, pushing them after they're getting up, this, that, the other. And of course Tampa's not going to be like, oh yeah, sorry, my bad. No. Of course they're going to stand their ground. Good for them.
22 guys trying to kill each other for 60 minutes.
Yeah, but I'm like, figure it out, man. Just you play, I don't know, maybe instead of talking shit to the team, maybe you should play better football.
Yep.
Just hypothetically.
Maybe.
I don't know. But and I didn't really care who won, but I'm just saying, like, from a leadership standpoint, the first 3 quarters I watched, pretty lame.
Yeah.
Pretty lame. Kansas City, if you'd like to hire me to teach your team about leadership, reach out to me at KyleG@KyleGSeafood.com. I'll give you a great rate.
If Andy Reid messages you at Kyle G Seafood, it's probably will not be for leadership. Most likely crab legs.
Listen, we got those too. I'll bring them.
All right.
I'll bring
Excellent.
them. Actually, you'll bring them. Put them in the van.
Yeah, right next to the soup.
So I'm gonna start over on that last part I read because we got a sentence into it and got a little sidetracked. So
Not us.
No, not at all.
Over.
Navigators see the trip ahead. General Electric Chairman Jack Welch asserts that a good leader remains focused. Controlling your direction is better than being controlled by it. I like to think about that like run your day, don't let your day run you, right? Stay focused, accomplish your tasks. You got to execute, you got to prioritize and execute. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to cover extreme ownership. That's going to be so much fun. Welch is right, but leaders who navigate do even more than control the direction in which they and their people travel. They see the whole trip in their minds before they leave the dock. They have a vision for their destination. They understand what it'll take to get there. They know who they'll need on the team to be successful, and they recognize the obstacles long before they appear on the horizon. Leroy Ames, the author of Be the Leader You Were Meant to Be, a leader is one who sees more than others see, who sees farther than others see, and who sees before others do.
See the writing on the wall.
Yeah, and you know when you look at when we talked about go back to episode 1 and 2, a lot of being able to see what it's going to take requires competency, right? If you were to look at the 3 things Jimmy Knott tells us, is it requires character, competency, and relational connection to be a leader of following. So I look at you need to have a high level of competency in what you're trying to accomplish, or you need to surround yourself with a team that has the competency. You need to say, hey, here's our objective, here's our goal, here's our plan. Can you guys plot those fine details so we can go step 1, 2, 3, 4, 12, 24, whatever it is, right? So if you don't have the competency to accomplish what it is you're doing, you can't plot the course, you don't know how to get there, you don't know how to train your team, you're kind of stuck. So you've got to have that competency in what you're trying to accomplish. The larger the organization, the more clearly the leader has to be able to see ahead. That's true because sheer size makes mid-course corrections more difficult. And if there are errors, many more people are affected than when you're traveling alone or with only a few people. The disaster shown in the recent film Titanic, this was written in 97, so Titanic had just come out, was a good example of that kind of problem. The crew could not see far enough ahead to avoid the iceberg altogether, and they could not maneuver enough to change the course once it was spotted because of the size of the ship, the largest built at that time. The result was that it cost more than 1,000 people their lives. Right? It's hard to turn. It's hard to turn a large ship. When we have, I used to say that here all the time. We want to change something with the servers. I'm like, okay, well, we have 55 servers on our roster. So in order for us to change this one thing, we've got to roll it out to them. We've got to enforce it. We've got to follow through with it because you're gonna all of a sudden you're gonna tell 10, and now the game of telephone is gonna happen. So we've got to make sure we curb that and make sure that everyone clearly understands what the expectations are, clearly understands what the change is, why the change is, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and then we can move forward and deploy it. Otherwise, if you just, most people think, I told them once, they got it. No, you've got to. Sometimes you've got to explain it. Sometimes you've got to work through it with them. Sometimes you've got
clear direction.
Yes, exactly, right? Especially if you're changing things. Here's a good one. Is this? Yeah, here's a good one. Navigators draw on past experience. Every past success and failure can be a source of information and wisdom, if you allow it to be. Successes teach you about yourself and what you're capable of doing with your particular gifts and talents. Failures show what kinds of wrong assumptions you've made and where your methods are flawed. If you fail to learn from your mistakes, you're going to fail again and again. That's why effective navigators start with experience, but they certainly don't end here. Right? So, but also too, what's great about past experience? It doesn't have to be your own. It can be your friends, it could be your parents, it could be your last boss you saw. Sometimes knowing what to do and what not to do are as equally as valuable as each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I like about this whole past experience thing? That's why I read. Because there's so many people that have gone through their lifetimes of things that they've worked on, developed, done. John Maxwell is an example. And then guess what they do? They put it in a book for you to read.
Yeah.
So you can learn based on their experience. So now you're getting exponential experience. And I can't tell you how many times in a day I come across something. Ask Matt, I talk to him all the time. I'm like, I don't know where I read this, but I've seen this. And here, maybe we should try going this way instead of everybody wants to go over here. Let's take a step. Let's go. Let's just make one small move this way and see what happens. And sometimes it works. Most of the time it works. And because I'm drawing off of somebody else's experience that is either still relevant or they lived 100 years ago, whatever the case may be. You know, what's interesting is like with leadership, it's funny, you see it and you see the common thread, and what happens is the more you learn about it, the more you realize the organizations and the companies and the individuals that do it well, and then the organizations, companies, and individuals that do it poorly. And then you come to understand that the ones that do it well didn't just wake up and have an epiphany and you're like, oh, now I'm good at this. They studied different organizations, they studied different companies, they've studied different cultures and learned and then applied it through the lens of whatever it is that their project happens to be in. Does that make sense?
Right.
So now it's not just, a lot of people are like, oh, well, this guy just thinks he knows it all, and he's just, no. This individual, this group has studied, they've learned, they've developed, they've looked back over time, they've had their experiences that they've put together, they've drawn on other companies and experiences they've had put together, maybe companies they've worked in the past, and they've come to the solution. And that's not the ultimate, but it's more efficient than it was even 5-10 years ago.
Right.
And continue to build and refine on that. So it's important.
It is.
These are the things that help us on our quest of leadership to be excellent leaders. Because at the end of the day, the success of a restaurant or a hospitality operation lies in how happy their guests are, right? Whether you're a hotel, country club, restaurant, whatever, catering space, right? And if you don't have leadership to chart the course to get those mechanics done, good food, good service, clean restaurant, do it profitably so you can pay your bills and do it again the next day. If you don't have the leadership capacity or the team to do that, what's the result?
Failure.
That's it. Pack it up, go home, try again later. I don't know, but it's not going to work.
Yep. Or you'll be the experience that we talk about.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, I know, I was there. I closed a restaurant. I know exactly what it's like. I've worked in restaurants that closed. I've been there. I learned. One of the best things I ever did was go out of business in 2009. I mean, it sucked. It was horrible. It took me 12 years to recover from that. But I learned. And you know what I did? Talking about when you learn from your failure, I was like, I don't know the front of the house. I'm 24. I still have plenty of working years left. What should I do? I don't know. Go get a job as a server and see all their tricks and how I could learn how to understand that so I can learn that and use that as a tool. I didn't know I was doing that then. I was like, I just need to learn this trade, this skill set. I get the concept. I'm pretty good with food because I started in the kitchen. So that's what I did. And I learned. And then I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. I like people. I like dealing with this. Oh, I make a shit ton more money than I did in the back. But that helped me to understand when I have my own restaurant to make sure that I compensate my guys in the back so that I don't lose them and they want to go be servers also. Right. And so find that balance, but it was huge. But I learned, and that was one of the best things for me. I said, oh, you know what? When I closed, I said, here's what I did right, here's what I did poorly. So I'm going to go learn these things because I didn't know how to do them. And here we are.
Yeah.
And you helped me move 17 times.
And you played Monopoly Saturday.
You didn't ask. Actually, I actually thought I was going to be here until Matt was like, hey, you know what? We got it. He's like, we're good. So I was like, all right, cool.
It's fine. I figured it out.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I knew you would.
Yeah, I got it done.
You're the best. Navigators listen to what others have to say. No matter how much you learn from the past, it will never tell you all you need to know for the present. That's why top-notch navigators gather information from many sources. Could those be books? Could those be videos? Could those be audiobooks while you're driving in the car instead of listening to whatever commercials are on the radio, right? Or whatever tired ass song is being played now. No offense.
No.
Because your music.
Listen, I have not made a tired ass song.
No, you haven't.
in a while.
Haven't. But it's like, if I have to hear Pink one more time on the radio.
Ooh, Chelsea get me mad. She
Whatever.
loves Pink.
Whatever.
I hear you.
Nothing against her. She's a good artist, but it's like
Right.
the same shit every
It is,
time, right?
yeah.
Oh, I made a playlist. I can't keep. I don't have the time to keep making playlists. But what I'm saying is if you've got a 30-minute drive to work, do it on the way to work. Listen to music on the way home, right? Decompress, relax, but put on a podcast. Put on an audiobook. Put on this podcast and listen to it. Just saying. I mean, put on something that's going to help you kind of get in the game mentally.
Right.
Prepare yourself and build your leadership capacity step by step. Use that as one of your sources. The internet, YouTube. You have so many sources. We have more resources now than ever before in the human history. And you think about leadership building, it's like, imagine this, right? Let's relate it back to sports. Let's take hockey, for example. I would venture to say that the forward and the goalie probably have two different skill sets they've got to learn and drills they run, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm so proud of you for knowing that.
See, right? See? And they've got to run these different drills, but they also need to understand how each one of them pertain to their jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, think about it. If they don't practice those drills and they just, when was the last time you practiced a drill for being a goalie for hockey?
Me personally?
Yes.
Not never.
Okay, right. So if you just laced up your skates, right, and went out onto the ice with hockey pads and a stick, is it fair to think that you're going to be an effective goalie?
Not even close.
Right?
No.
Right? If Wayne Gretzky's taking shots at you, you're going to be behind the net hiding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So follow me on this. How is it that when people want to deal with leadership things, leadership challenges, leadership opportunities, without spending any time building their skill set or ability and improving their leadership skill set or ability, do they think that they're going to be successful in handling that challenge or opportunity or whatever it is? Probably not. And they're going to make an emotional decision, and they're like, oh, well, this feels good, so that's what I'm going to do. And then it might work. You might get lucky, but you're going to severely increase your chances of success if you take a little bit of time and energy on your own time to build that ability to be a better leader. Especially if you are in a position of leadership by title, you definitely do that. And like I said, if you got a 20, 30 minute drive to work, put it on. Yeah. Put it on the way there. And you know what? If you really want to, put it on your way home and get twice as good. But again, daily incremental growth. Absolutely. And as your leadership ability grows, your team will notice and they will continue to rally and build behind you. But if you don't do that, you can't expect to magically get better if you do nothing over the course of 90 days to build your leadership skill set. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to get not better.
Yeah.
Matt called me the other day. It was last week. I was getting ready. I was getting dressed. I was ironing or something, and I had Jocko's podcast on. And he goes, he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Getting ready." I said, "I'm also listening to Jocko's podcast on leadership. He's going through a really good book. He's going through kind of like what we're doing, but like with multiple series. He got like 13 pages into one episode, and he's like 2.5 hours in. He's like, "All right, we got to stop here." And I'm like, "Cool." So I can run my book a couple episodes, no problem. But anyway. And he's like, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "Because I can't get dressed and read a book at the same time." I said, "I'm building my leadership capacity while getting dressed." And he's like, "You're nuts." But I only have a 10-minute drive to work, so I got to start somewhere, right? So if I can get it started in the morning after my vitamins and my milk, I'm good to go.
I think Matt's exact words were, "Do you ever turn it off?"
Those were his exact words. I said, "No, his leadership never sleeps." Where was I? They get ideas from members of their leadership team. They talk to the people in their organization to find out what's happening on the grassroots level. They spend time with their leaders They spend time with leaders from outside the organization who can mentor them. So, wait, there's more. Navigators examine the conditions before making comments. So, they listen, right? One of the best things you can do as a leader is listen. Our job as leaders is to ask questions. It's not to solve problems. It's to ask questions and help our team figure out how to solve problems. But we've got to listen to them. We cannot, this is very important, we cannot say, oh, I've got the most experience, I've got the answers. My ego, because what is that? That's my ego, my ego, my ego. It's got to be my plan, it's got to be my plan. I ask my team all the time, how do you want to do this? What do you want to do? Here's the thing that I see that's going wrong. How can we make it right? What do you guys need? What do you think? How can we improve this? I have an idea. I'm going to shoot it at you. If you like it, roll with it. If you don't like it, or you think it's wrong, or you can improve on that, or let me hear your idea, let's collaborate and build that. And then I do this. I shut up. And I listen. And you know, if their plan is just as good as mine, I'm gonna say, hey, cool, go with it. If it's not as good as mine, I'm gonna say, cool, go with it. If it's like horrendous, I might say, you know what, I see what you're trying to do, but just keep in mind X, Y, and Z factors. And they're gonna be like, oh, I didn't think of that. And maybe it is because I have the experience, or I've got a more of a detached view. And they're gonna say, oh, I didn't think of that. All right, cool. And then they work it into the plan. They say, okay, now here's what I'm gonna do. I'm like, all right, great, go with it. Cool, good.
Yep.
What do you need to get it done? How can I help you? Like, but listening to them, asking even your servers, asking the cooks, asking the dish team, how's it going? What do you need? Sometimes they've got some of the best ideas because they're dealing with it on the front lines day to day, right? I can't tell you how many bosses I've seen that wanna just go in there and, this is how you do it, this is how I did it, da, da, da. Does having that same job 20 years ago, does that qualify you to tell them how to do it today? Even if it was 5 years ago? No, you forgot. I forgot what it's like to be a server. I remember the basics, but I don't remember what it's like to be in there day in, day in, day in, day in, day out, day in, day out. I remember it's grueling. I know that being on the line every day beats you up, and it's a challenge. I respect it. And see, that's the thing. I respect it because I know that because I was there. However, at the same time, I'm probably not going to be the best person to tell you exactly how to do it, etc. I can give you some really broad stroke ideas and some conceptions on how to do it, but that's where you as the individual have to kind of bridge the gap, right? And I would actually defer to our service managers in the restaurants because guess what? They were in those positions a lot more recently than I was, and they see it more on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to say, hey, we've got to get to here. I need you guys to help me fill in those gaps and work it back so we can. I know what the objective should be, but you know the people, sometimes they're going to have better relational connections because they work with them every day. So I'm going to subordinate my ego, refer to them, have them help me build those plans so that I can then support, help oversee, and I can continue to look out over the overall operation and know that this corner over here is being taken care of. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Excellent. Returning to the book. I like action, and my personality prompts me to be spontaneous on top of that. I have reliable intuition when it comes to leadership, but I'm also conscious of my responsibilities as a leader. So before I make commitments that are going to impact my people, I take stock and thoroughly think things through. Good navigators count the cost before making commitments for themselves and others. You got to think it through, right? And you know what I liked what he said, which I kind of skipped over here, was in the last paragraph when he said, leaders talk to people in their organization to find out what's happening in the grassroots, and they spend time with leaders from outside the organization who can mentor them. So, and that's why it's important, if you're a leader, go join an organization. You know, we were at the restaurant, the Florida
FRLA,
Restaurant Association. We started the Treasure Coast chapter. That was something that the St. Lucie County Board of Tourism, and I got to get up and kind of make a little presentation to them as to why it was a good thing to have some camaraderie from Stewart to St. Lucie up to Vero and have a Treasure Coast chapter. So we can spend time with these leaders and collaborate and build and talk to them about industry specific things. And on being on the board at Gentian Chamber of Commerce, we're going to kind of work on something like that as well for all the specific industries where we have like little lunch and learns and things like that. We cover that in our meeting on Friday. And you know, just being able to spend time with leaders, whether you lead 1,000 people and that other leader leads 10, it doesn't matter. It's still leadership, it's still collaboration, and there's still value to be found. Even if you're not getting the value, you're imparting the value, or you're just building a relationship in the community, and that is so crucial, especially today. You can't pay for that level and that efficient and effective marketing. It'd be too expensive. Does that make sense?
Right.
Next, being able to navigate for others requires a leader to possess a positive attitude.
Yeah, we just covered that.
Yeah, if
Can't be a shithead.
yeah,
think people are going to be.
Once you're past 5 and you think the world owes you a favor, you're kind of at a disadvantage. So hopefully people are listening to that. If you're negative, if you're constantly, you got to find something to be positive about. There's people that have it way worse than anybody in that I know. I know there's people that have it bad in the United States. Got it. But it's not like they're in third world countries. It's not like they're in the middle of the Middle East and war-torn countries where they're just trying to take care of their family, and you've got regimes coming in left and right with AK-47s and RPGs, just being like, this is mine.
Yeah.
Later, you know what I mean? Like we've got it pretty good. So what I'm saying is there is somewhere, somehow, some way that you can find some positivity in your day to get up and go make an impact for your family, for yourself, for the organization that you're with. But you got to start with having a positive attitude, right? Especially if you're going to be an effective leader. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I mean, think about the trials and tribulations that have just happened throughout history for individuals. There are some people that have gone through some horrendous stuff, and you know what, they still do it day in and day out. And so if they can do it, so can we.
Absolutely.
Right? So you got to start with a positive attitude. You've got to have faith that you can take your people all the way. If you can't confidently make the trip in your minds, you're not going to be able to take a trip in real life. On the other hand, you also have to be able to see the facts realistically. You can't minimize obstacles or rationalize your challenges. If you don't go in with your eyes wide open, you're going to get blindsided. As Bill Easom observes, realistic leaders are objective enough to minimize illusions. They understand that self-deception can cost them their vision. Sometimes it's difficult balancing optimism and realism, intuition and planning, faith and fact. But that's what it takes to be effective as a navigating leader. What does that mean?
That kind of boils right back into an ego check. You got to make sure that you know that it's not just you and whatever you're planning. People are relying on.
Exactly. I've got on my notes here, I said you've got to detach and check your ego. You've got to put your emotions at the door. You know, how many times, I used to work in a restaurant, and we've all heard it, where you got to check your shit at the door. And I used to work at a restaurant, and by the back door of the kitchen, they had a little plaque that said, check your shit here. And one of the things they told you to do was, as you're walking in to go clock in, tap that plaque right by the back door, because that was your physical nod to, hey, I'm hanging my bag of shit at the door, and it's going to be there when I leave, right? Like, you go to a shift, baby mama's giving you problems, baby daddy's giving you problems, this, that, blah, blah, blah. I get it, right? Mm-hmm. There's always going to be something. Life happens.
Yeah. My baby daddy ain't shit, so I understand that.
Heard.
But no, that's exactly right. Check your ego at the door.
You got to check it at the door, and you got to focus on your mission, because guess what? It's going to be a lot harder for you to deal with those problems if you get fired from your job or you don't go to work and go make money.
Right.
So now, your car is broke and you don't have money to fix it. Go to work to make money to fix your car. And sometimes we just needed an emotional day off. Got it. I'm good. Take it, right? But it can't be every week. It can't be every month. And you can't be, I don't have money to do it. Go to work.
Yeah.
Go to work. I'm owed my car fix. Someone's going to give me $800. Who? You can do it. Just go to work. That's it. You with me?
Yeah.
So put the time and energy into it. Go to work.
I asked you to fix my car in confidence. I didn't know we were going to do it on the podcast. Jesus.
The other thing is not only checking your emotions, but again, checking your ego. Going back to what it said is crucial, because again, we talk about it doesn't have to be just your plan. Sometimes someone else's plan is going to be equally as good, it's going to be better, or it's going to be 90% as good as yours. As long as it's going to solve the problem, that's okay. Especially if you're the leader, give your team the responsibility to solve that problem. Let them get some confidence, give them a challenge so that they can strive to it, they can accomplish it, and they can show you. Everybody wants 90% of people, when they come to work, they want to do a great job. Right? And it's our job as leaders to find those 10 and get them out and keep moving. But pretty much nobody shows up to work and says, man, I can't wait to do a real shit job today.
I can't wait to be mediocre.
Yeah. So give it to them. Let them do it.
Yeah.
let them do it. And you got to trust them a little bit. And we get into that. And we might not get into it today, but we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to not dig in and hold on to your plan, your ego. Just cool. Let's do it. That's right. Let's do it together.
For sure.
That covers that chapter.
I like it.
Next chapter is the law of E.F. Hutton. It says, when the real leader speaks, people listen. Pretty simple. What does that mean? Well, we're going to figure it out. We're going to learn. We're going to learn today.
You're going to learn today. I wonder how sued we'd get if we start adding all the clips for that. Ayala Films. Do you think that's something we could do?
Young and experienced leaders. Well, hold on. We're not playing any like music, so therefore we don't have to like. I don't own the rights to this music, right?
Yeah. I mean,
you're the music guy.
We're gonna figure it out. Yeah. I have an ASCAP number.
So if they get to attorney number 4, they're doing pretty good. Young and experienced leaders often walk confidently into a room full of people only to discover that they have totally misjudged the leadership dynamics of the situation. I know that's happened to me, but when it did, it usually didn't take me very long to recognize my blunder. That was the case when I presided over our very first board meeting as a young leader. It occurred in the first church I led in rural Indiana, right after I graduated from the college at 22. I hadn't been at the church for much more than a month, and I was leading a group of people whose average age was about 50. Most of the people in the meeting had been at the church longer than I'd been alive. I went into the meeting with no preconceptions, no agenda, and no clue. I figured that I was the appointed leader and just assumed everyone would follow me because of that. We've learned that doesn't work. Now this is John Maxwell writing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the guy, right? With all the wisdom and knowledge of my 2 decades of life experience, I opened the meeting and asked whether anyone had an issue to discuss. There was a brief pause as I looked around the table, and the man in his 60s named Claude cleared his throat and said, "Mr. Maxwell, I've got something." "Go right ahead, Claude," I said. "Well, I've noticed lately that the piano seems to be out of tune when it's played in the service." "You know, I've noticed the same thing," said one of the other board members. "I make a motion that we spend the money to get the piano tuner to come out from Louisville and take care of it." "Hey, that's a great idea," everyone at the table started saying. "I second that motion," said Benny, the board member sitting next to Claude. "That's great. Does anyone else have anything?" "Yep," said Claude. "I noticed the other day there's a pane of glass in one of the Sunday school rooms that's busted. I've got a piece of glass out of the farm that would fit that." "Benny, you're a pretty good glazer. How about you put that glass in?" "Sure," said Benny. "I'd be glad to." "Good. There's one other thing," Claude said. "This year's picnic, I was thinking maybe this time we ought to have it down by the lake. I think it would be good for the kids." "Oh, that would be perfect. What a great idea," everyone said. "Let's make it official," Benny said. As everyone nodded in agreement, we all waited to see if Claude had anything else to say. "That's all I've got," said Claude. "Pastor, why don't you close us in prayer?" And that's what I did. That was pretty much the whole content of my first board meeting. And it was also the day I realized the real leader in that church, or who that real leader in that church was. I held the position, but Claude had the power. That's when I discovered the law of E.F. Hutton. You've probably, now remember, this is back in 97 this was written, so put you a little time capsule, right? A little mental time capsule 24 years ago. You've probably heard of E.F. Hutton, the financial services company. Years ago, their motto was, "When E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen." Maybe you remember their old television commercials. The setting was typically a busy restaurant or other public place. 2 people would be talking about financial matters, and the first person would repeat something his broker had said concerning a certain investment. The second person would say, "Well, my broker is E.F. Hutton, and E.F. Hutton says, ... And at that point, every single person in the bustling restaurant would stop dead in his tracks, turn, and listen to what that man was about to say. That's why I call this leadership truth, the law of E.F. Hutton, because when the real leader speaks, people do listen. Right? That's a pretty good example.
Yeah.
So what could I do? After my first board meeting, I had to determine how I was going to handle the situation in my church. I had several options, for example. I could have insisted on my right to be in charge. I've seen a lot of positional leaders do that over the years. They tell their people something like this: "Hey, wait, I'm the leader. You're supposed to follow me." But that doesn't work. People might be polite to you, but they won't really follow you. It's similar to something former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher once said: "Being in power is like being a lady. If you have to tell people you are, you aren't." She was around a lot earlier before.
Yeah. Before the Titanic?
Before the Titanic, yeah, probably. I don't know when she was around, but she's right.
Yeah.
They're right. He's right. You know, if you've got to tell someone you're the leader, hey, I'm the boss. You might have the title, but it doesn't mean that you have the buy-in. It doesn't mean you have the influence, because now you're trying to assert that through force, versus just a leader should really be able to lead. The mark of a good leader should be able to lead with the minimal force required, because their influence is so strong because of character, competency, relational connection, in identifying their 21 tools in our little leadership toolbox here, that they don't need to go around and tell someone, I'm the boss.
I think we've all had that boss.
Yeah, of course we have. And I'm happy I had those bosses, because it taught me how to not be that boss. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be that.
I don't want to be the mushroom magician.
Exactly. I do. Once you learn the law of E.F. Hutton, you'll never have trouble figuring out who the real leader is in just about any situation. For example, go to a meeting with a group of people you've never met before and watch them for 5 minutes. You'll know who the leader is. When somebody asks a question, who do people watch? Who do they wait to hear? The person they look to is the real leader. The next time you're in a meeting, look around you. See if you notice a difference between those kinds of leaders. So he goes on to talk about there's two types of leaders. There's positional leaders and there's real leaders. And he's got a little kind of some comments here on what those look like. So positional leaders are ones who speak first. They need the influence of the real leader to get things done, and they influence only the other positional leaders, right? But real leaders speak later, right? And we're talking about in a group setting. Real leaders are going to speak later. They're going to need only their own influence to get things done, and a real leader is going to influence everyone in the room, right? And so it sounds like a real leader is going to be someone with good character. It sounds like a real leader is going to be someone with competency in whatever it is they're talking about, and they're going to have good relational connection because they're influencing everyone in the room. Even if it's someone that they've just met, people can smell your character immediately. You ever meet someone and you're like, something doesn't sit right with me about this person?
I've worked in nightclubs for 20 years.
There you go. So,
I've met the most shady people in the world.
Yeah, and it's not even, you might not even know their history, their help me out here, their reputation, right? It's you meet them and you're like, something's weird about that person. And even but other way around, right? You're like, man, that's a pretty cool guy. She's awesome, whatever it is. Like, that's someone I'd like to get to know professionally and work with and collaborate with, and then boom, down the road sometimes it happens, right? So yeah, there's a lot to that I think most people miss out on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think? Positional leaders, real leaders?
Yeah.
We're about to get into a next topic here, still in this chapter. I'm very excited for, and then we'll
All
go
right.
from there.
I think that you've hit the nail on the head, sir.
No, John Maxwell did.
Well, you did, but he did obviously, but I meant you with the situational awareness of it and what a positional leader is, because you're exactly right. We've all had that boss who's, I'm the boss, you listen to me. It's like, nope, you're a troll, and you don't know half of what you're supposed to.
More than one, and yeah, and think about what type of morale not only does that have for you, but for your team. Yeah. Right, and it's tough. Now, are there going to be times where you don't agree with your boss? Of course there is. That's okay. You know what I mean? That's where you say, hey boss, you know what? I don't really understand that. Can you clarify it a little bit more? Or, hey, you know what? I can't do this because X, Y, Z are going to happen. And that boss, if they're going to be a good leader, should shut up and listen. And then say, hey, you know what? You're right. I didn't think about that. You're on the front lines more than I am. Okay, I see why X, Y, and Z are going to be bad, but I'd still like to get this accomplished. Let's figure out how to get this done, but through another channel, right? But if they just say, do it because I said so, I'm the boss, that's over time, that's not going to work out very well. I mean, those that now you're getting into the realm of ultimatums, and those, I mean,
seldomly work well.
Yeah. Do you like getting the ultimatums? No.
Negative.
Okay, so here's a question. Going into our next topic here. follow me on this. All right, Kyle. We're gonna role play here. You're me.
Oh.
I'm somebody.
Boom.
You got it down.
All right.
Hey, Kyle, that sounds great. I'm listening to your podcast, right? I'm following along with the book. Got it. Cool. But how do I become a real leader versus a positional leader? How do I influence everyone in the room? I'm having trouble understanding that. How can I walk into my pre-shift as a server, or how can I walk into the line as a line cook? How can I grasp the concept of being a real leader versus a positional leader? Maybe I just got promoted and I'm a little unsure about this. How do I do that, right?
Well, Doug.
Well, Doug. And then you would go into this, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I think that's a fair statement, right? And then maybe there's people listening to this and the whole reason why we're doing this podcast is for people just like that, listen to this, that have that exact question.
Right.
You with me? Because that's what we're going to get into. And I really like this because this is where you see, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure John Maxwell and Jimmy Knott, they're friends. They collaborate. They're both pastors of churches. They've written a lot of books, and so I believe they collaborate and overlap a lot. But when you read Jimmy Knott stuff, there's actually a lot of stuff from John Maxwell. So Jimmy Knott, John Maxwell, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of overlapping things, which is not plagiarism. This is leadership truth. This is stuff that's been going on for eons as human nature, and they've been able to identify it. And even though they might use similar terms or different terms, it all functions and is all in the same strand, the same thread, if you will. And with that, we're going to recap a little bit. When we talk, I've said it 7 times already. Jimmy Knott says, because I always boil it down to my team like this, right? When they're having issues, like, oh, what do I do? I'm like, well, are we showcasing good character? Are we showing the competency? And do you have or are you building good relational connections with your team? That's your starting point. Whenever you need to figure out something as a leader and you need to serve yourself your first piece of humble pie, that's your starting point. Am I doing these 3 things? Because if those 3 things aren't happening, whatever you're doing is irrelevant, and you need to solve those 3 things if you're going to improve your team's performance. So, to answer the question, people become real leaders because of the following. Now, character, competency, relational connection, right? That's what we just said. Well, those are 3. We've got 7 points that all fall within those 3. Little branches, like the tree, the leadership tree, the more branches. People become real leaders because of, well, how do the real leaders become the real leaders within groups? As I explained in the chapter of the law of process, leadership doesn't develop in just a day, right? Remember we went over that.
Right.
Neither does a person's recognition as a leader. Over the course of time, 7 key areas reveal themselves in a leader's lives that cause them to step forward as leaders. Number 1, character. Imagine that. Who they are, right? True leadership always begins with the inner person. Oh, could it be because Peter Drucker might have noted that managing oneself is where leadership starts? Could be. That book was written 100 years ago or whatever it was. Or Peter Drucker was around 100 years ago. Yep. Okay. Noted. Check. That's why someone like Billy Graham is able to draw more and more followers to him as time goes by. People can sense the depth of his character. Number 2, relationships. Who they know.
Imagine that again.
So and that's what I'm saying. When you study leadership, you see these things overlap. Every author over time saying the same things. So again, that's what my point earlier is. It's not like someone just woke up and had an epiphany and said, hey, here's what we're going to do today because I'm a genius. No, this stuff is tried and true. And that's why we talked about in the other episodes. The military organizations, the church organizations, they've been around and for hundreds of thousands of years. They've studied, they've learned through the process of leadership of how to lead people, groups, communities, and positively influence people. I mean, there's other arguments that,
but not even next.
But there's throughout history, there's churches that aren't necessarily the good churches to follow, and and I'm talking about like some of those, perhaps, and I don't want to get into a wrong territory here, but they go against, obviously, the traditional Bible, right? Maybe it's a satanic church. Mm-hmm. Regardless, they still have influence. There's still people that follow them. So in a way, they're leaders. Not someone I'm going to follow, but they're still leaders. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, there's enemies of our military. They have leaders. and I guess right or wrong is a point of perspective from where you are culturally, et cetera, but that's a whole other thing that
could be a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah, I'm not going to cover that. But my point is there's still some element of leadership there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
the mechanics are there. Relationships, who they know. You're a leader only if you have followers, and that always requires the development of relationships. The deeper the relationships, the stronger the potential for leadership. Each time I entered a new leadership position, I immediately started building relationships. Build enough of the right kinds of leaderships with the right people, and you can become the real leader in an organization. Number 3, knowledge.
Competency.
There you go. What they know, right? So character, relationships, competency. Imagine that. So knowledge, what they know. Information is vital to a leader. You need a grasp of the facts, an understanding of the factors involved, and a vision for the future. Knowledge alone won't make someone a leader, but without it, he can't become one. I always spent a lot of time doing homework before I tried to take the lead in an organization. And again, going back to Jimmy Knott, John Maxwell, David Goggins, Jocko Willink, like whoever you want to look to as a leader, right? Who you want to emulate. Our job here is not to make up any of our own leadership stuff in our podcast. Our job is to take all these groups, all these individuals, and consolidate the messages and help spread those messages so that people can themselves be better leaders in what they do, right? I'm not over here saying, hey, here's my version of this. No, I don't make this up. I'm literally just using our podcast and YouTube as a vessel to help get these messages out there to help people be better leaders.
Right.
And when you teach something and you go through it, you actually get better at it yourself.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking about it the other day. I said, I spend about 10 hours a week now, not only going through stuff, prepping for the podcast, going through it on the podcast, working on leadership things with my team in the restaurants, and continuing to feed my appetite for leadership. So I thought about it. I said, okay, man, if I'm spending an average of 10 hours a week, 12 hours a week in leadership, that means I'm going to continue to build and grow as a leader. It's pretty exciting because I could talk about this all day. Number 4, intuition, what they feel. Leadership requires more than just a command of data. It demands an ability to deal with numerous intangibles. Right? You've got to, there's an art and science to a level of leadership, just like there is anything else. You got to be able to deal with the data and intuitively understand what it means and how it's going to determine what your next couple steps are. They don't need to be big steps. You could take small steps one way or the other, or sometimes you could take that data and be like, you know what, I'm going to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait and see what happens over the next 30 days, 20 days, 2 weeks, an hour, whatever. Experience where they have been. The greater the challenges you faced in the past, the more likely followers are to give you a chance. Experience doesn't guarantee credibility, but encourages people to give you a chance to prove that you are capable. That's life in general, right?
Yeah.
Past success, what they've done. Nothing speaks to followers like a good track record. When I went to my first church, I had no track record. I couldn't point to past successes to help people believe in me. But by the time I went to my second church, I had a few. Every time I extended myself, took a risk, and succeeded, followers had another reason to trust my leadership ability and to listen to what I had to say. Yep. Now, I'm gonna challenge Mr. Maxwell here for a second. What happens if you fail? As a leader, what happens? You take a risk, you do this, boom, 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 and okay, he succeeded. You took a risk. What happens the opposite? Conversely, what happens if you fail? Then what happens?
You still got experience.
You got experience. You still have credibility?
That'll remain to be seen depending on your...
What if I told you could? What if I told you that, as a leader...
If it defined you, then no, you will not...
If it defines you, well, that's because you stopped and you gave up. Because it defined me. Oh, I failed. I closed, my business closed. I failed as a leader. That's it. I'm done. I'm going to go work in a shoe store, right? I'm done with the restaurants. I'm going to go work in a shoe store. No, just give me my check, whatever.
Yep.
Close. If you fail, right? If the team fails, right? Let's say my restaurant, the Brick Wall Grill. I had 25 employees. We went out of business. Why? My team, my I can say my team failed. My cooks didn't manage their food cost properly. My servers, they weren't good enough servers. Whatever. What my bartender stole booze. I can say whatever I want to say. At the end of the day, whose responsibility is it? It's mine, right? So I can fail as a leader as long as I own it and I take responsibility and I eat that big 11-year serving of humble pie that it took for me to figure it out. Then I can retain my credibility as a leader. I can own it. I can apologize. I can learn from it. I can build from it. I can understand more. But I can't do that if I just blame pass. If I'm just saying, yep, it was my servers, my cooks, my chef, whatever, the community, whatever. Doesn't matter. Irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. I've got to own it and say, you know what? I got a lot of humble pie to eat, and I'm going to just grab my spoon and go. Okay? But I can still retain my credibility. I can still retain my leadership capital and say, hey, I made a mistake. And that's okay. That's where humility comes in, hence humble hospitality. You got to have that as a leader. And he doesn't talk about that in these. I would kind of challenge Mr. Maxwell to put number 8 on here and have a humility section, or with just a couple lines, because that's one thing that I would add to. I'm not telling Maxwell what to do. He's taught me. But I'm just saying, that would be kind of one of the things that I just want to make sure we add it on here, because you can have successes all you want, but out of 100 tries, you're only going to have maybe one success, and all it takes is one, right? So you've got to be able to be humble, have humility, and when you make mistakes, apologize for them and say, hey, here's what I'm going to do moving forward to fix it. So even if it's not that severe, maybe you're a department level, maybe you're a restaurant manager and you have a specific department like the bar or service, or you're the AM sous chef and you failed on something and you got egg on your face, right? Whatever the case may be. Let's use the AM sous chef, and whatever prep didn't get done for Valentine's Day, which is coming up, and the kitchen shits the bed at 7:30 at night because we're out of everything. Yeah. Right? That's on that AM. I mean, it's on the executive chef, but it's on the AM sous chef, right? So that guy can say, oh, the prep guys suck. Yeah, buddy. Who's in charge of them, right? Yeah. So if he says, hey, you know what? I got it. I owned it. I realized the next day is going to be a busy day, so we're going to get in early. I'm going to double up the prep, and I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to help get it done, and here's what's going to happen. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it. Cool. Good. Great. Fantastic. Yeah. I'm good with that because it tells me as your leader, right? If you're my AM sous chef and we're having that conversation, who would I rather work with? The guy that says, yep, I own it. I should have made sure that we prepped to a prep list. I should have made sure I checked the reservations. I should have made sure that I told the team, hey, if you need to stay to get it done. Or I should have told the PM sous chef, hey, I need some help. I didn't get all this done. Can the line guys handle making extra mac and cheese sauce, whatever, right? If you tell me that, I'd much rather that, and you'd be like, oh, well, the truck showed up late. My prep guys didn't do everything the right way. Whatever. I'm gonna be pissed. Yeah. And ultimately, it falls on me because I need to follow up with that. But my point is when it comes time for promotions, when it comes time for raises, when it comes time to, hey, maybe I got someone else who's really stepping up and ready to take this spot. Who am I going to consider? Yeah. Right. And in these other organizations that are listening, who do you think your boss is going to consider? The one that says, hey, you know what, boss? You're right. I'm going to take care of this. Here's what I learned. Here's how I'm going to fix it. Or, oh, well, this, the project was late because we didn't get our delivery for 2 days, or this or that, or it's everyone else's fault but mine. I'm perfect. I could have done the job if the universe aligned properly for me. Right? Yep. Number 7, last one, ability. What they can do. The bottom line for followers is that what a leader is capable of. Ultimately, that's the reason people will listen to you and acknowledge you as their leader. As soon as they no longer believe you can deliver, they will stop listening. What do you think?
Makes sense, 100%.
So, I think that's a good place to stop. We've been going for just about 2 hours now. Yeah. We got 2 chapters.
Yeah, look at that.
No more chapters to go. It's 21. So what do we did 3, now 2, 5, so 16 left. Yep. We're going to be covering this for a while.
Yeah, we are.
Good. Do we need to break, or are we good?
No, you're good.
We got 10 minutes left.
No, it's fine. So What was the last thing you just said?
That was the end.
Okay, so say, all right, so this is the end. Start there, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
3, 2.
So that's a pretty good place to stop, huh?
Yeah,
absolutely. We've got 2 chapters in today.
Yep.
2 hours roughly. And what do you think? What do you think of our quest through leadership today? We've learned about some Antarctic activities.
And how not to go there.
Definitely not go there unless you've got dog sleds and Eskimo training, right? Maybe some fully stocked supply depots.
Yeah.
Speaking of fully stocked supply depots,
No, look at that.
if somebody wanted to help support the podcast, what could they do to deplete our supply depot of apparel?
We are fully stocked and supplied at KyleGSeafood.com. Go over there and check out our shirt collection. The biggest thanks you can give for us is a subscription to our channel, a thumbs up for the video. Make sure you follow us. We have, which I won't even try to get into because the chef himself is here, but we have a very exciting Valentine's Day weekend menu that's coming up.
Yeah, all the restaurants have great Valentine's Day menu choices this week. I know we're getting pretty sold out. Valentine's Day is on a Sunday. We're going to be doing a Sunday brunch here at Hutchinson Kitchen, and then we go right into dinner. So make sure you get your girl reservations or get your guy reservations. We're going to be handing out lots of roses. We ordered 900 roses today for Okanember and Kyle G's.
Might order 2,700, but we'll talk about that off the camera.
That's fine. Friday and Saturday, it's going to be Valentine's Day weekend all weekend.
Absolutely.
What else? So we've got if you go to KyleGrestaurants.com, all of our brands are on there. We are still going through the licensing process with Promenade Catering, where we're going to be doing weddings, events, corporate events, wine dinners, bourbon dinners. I think we're going to kick off Easter with a Sunday Easter brunch that's going to be just killer, and we're looking at maybe doing a Easter brunch on all Sundays.
Awesome.
Like you said, we've got the apparel. If you're looking for gift cards, you want to save some money. For every $500 you spend, you get a 20% discount. So save yourself $100. A little 20% ROI, or return on investment. Excellent. So we've got the shirts going up. We've got Open Table. You can make reservations there or on any of our websites: OkanemberSteakhouse.com, HutchinsonKitchen.com, KyleGSeafood.com.
Soon to be
KyleGCatering.com for the Promenade.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of things. Doug's been awesome and very instrumental at getting the Promenade up running, and going to be help running a lot of the events, a lot of the weddings, handling all the DJing and audio visual. We got Ayala Films that helps us produce this podcast every week. Andres Ayala, thank you very much. And he is our wedding videographer of choice at the Promenade. So even if you're not doing your wedding at the Promenade, hit up Ayala Films, because these guys do an amazing job. They do all of our video for all of our
testimonials,
all of our restaurant marketing, which you can see on our YouTube channel or somewhere on Facebook and all our websites, but definitely on our YouTube channel, Humble Hospitality.
And you're forgetting one more thing. The Oyster Bar has drywall now.
Oyster Bar has drywall. It has the black FRP boards up for the kitchen and the back bar. We should be getting ceilings and floor prep. I think by the end of February, it's going to actually look more like a restaurant than a construction zone.
A parcel.
So I think April or May we should be able to be open. So once we get a little further in and we get more building inspections done, we'll be starting training, and we'll be starting. We're going to start training. We're going to start all the marketing and all that. And I need to get with Lindsay, because
We should get Lindsay on here.
We're going to get some people in here. I want to get Matt in here first, because he's really good at these 21 Laws of Leadership, but he's just so busy. So he's got to figure out a way to decentralize his command.
Absolutely.
To come get in here. What was I going to say? We got Valentine's Day coming up. It's been great, man. We've been busy. The team's been performing tremendously well. We're kind of in the peak of whatever this COVID season is, like season with COVID. So, but it's been going well. Things have been really good. We're working hard. Everyone's working on projects. And we've got a leadership meeting after we film this podcast here at the Ocean, right? We changed up the scenery today. We didn't do it at Oak. We did it here at the Ocean. You know, on a nice little ocean view for our podcast.
Look at that.
What I was to say was I want to get with Lindsay because Lindsay's going to help me we're going to put together a book for you to move.
Excellent. I'm the chief of books now.
Chief of books.
Can
No,
you put that like right here, Andres? Thanks.
we're going to put together a book about restaurant leadership, and we're going to kind of go through how we led through the pandemic. We've had so much community feedback and of positivity. We've been able to not only retain jobs, but build 2 restaurants with 2 more locations coming up between the Oyster Bar and the Promenade once we get all our licensing and building done. And people have been asking me, how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you do it? And I really want to take time to
tell them,
to tell them, and to really kind of impart a lot of what the concept of what we cover here in this, and really put it into real world application that we really try to do the best we could and revert back to our core values and translate that through our actions,
right,
even without having a restaurant and even once we were able to reopen. So, I think there's a lot of good information there. Lindsay and I are going to start laying that out, so hopefully we can have that up. I don't know how long it takes to write a book. This will be my first one, but we're going to figure it out.
we're gonna figure it
We're
out.
going to figure it out. So
Probably.
yeah. So that's what we've
as
got.
long as it takes to move them.
I hope so.
He owes me a move.
I do.
All right, give us a subscription, give us a like, give us a share.
Make some reservations.
Yeah, absolutely. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, guys. Thank you.